Everything for us so far, over the last few weeks, we've been going through remodeling a couple of not huge remodels, but just rehabs on a couple of new properties that we got in St. Louis. We finally got, there were three of them, and we finally got one of them listed for rent last week. So we're anxious to see what we're going to be getting for rents there. Uh, Chris has his hand up. I'll get to you in a second, Chris, but
No, no rush, Frank. Sorry, sorry, I
I
moved
was
off mute.
it's interesting that you're here tonight because I took your advice and we're shooting for the stars as far as rent goes. So we'll see what we get
Go,
there.
baby, go.
Yeah, we're looking for a Section 8 tenant, and those rents are a bit higher than a regular tenant might pull in right now. So we started there first. We'll see what happens, but Dion was saying to give it, at least through the first week of January. Then it will be 2 weeks and
Yeah.
see what kind of activity we get and things like that. So, yeah, we'll definitely keep you posted. I think of you often when we were talking about that.
Stretching the envelope. Love to hear it.
Yeah, yeah, great. There's a couple maybe new people. Peggy, you've been with us before, haven't you?
I've jumped on for a few other calls randomly.
Okay, that's
But
good
yeah,
to see.
just seeing what everybody's doing and going on. So
Yeah, awesome. Happy New Year to everybody. I'm glad you're here. We're just I thought we would come on just in case anybody had any questions or anything. I see, is it Dawei Zhu that is joining us as well? This is your first time, I think.
Yes, it's my first time.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you.
Um, yeah, so if you haven't been with us before, we are pretty informal. We're just here, for you guys. If you guys have any questions, a lot of people in the group are more experienced than I am for sure. But it just if you have any thoughts, we need any feedback. We sometimes we go for a really long time, but you don't have to feel like you got to stay forever. Um, Chris has his hand up, but if you want to raise your hand or if you want to just ask your question, just feel free anytime. And there's the people that are with us this evening, just for a quickie, Sam's in Texas, Chester's he calls it the DMV. He's on the East Coast. Chris is in Pennsylvania. Um,
Frank, did you say DMB or DMZ? Sorry.
well, it could, some parts are DMZ,
Some,
but I think,
sometimes there are parts that do look like a demilitarized zone, but DMV stands for DC, Maryland, and Virginia. That's the area that we call the few counties that are like inclusive of
Uh,
DC itself, but the suburban Maryland and Virginia counties that
Adjacent to the
immediately
Tri-Marva
surround it.
area, if I remember correctly, right? Right, Chester?
Like, oh, you're talking like the Delmarva.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Adjacent.
So
Adjacent.
adjacent.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay. No worries. No worries.
yeah, Jason's in Chicago. Jack is in Pittsburgh and investing in Pittsburgh. Anna is in Washington State. Mikey's in Hawaii, investing in Pittsburgh. Matesh has properties in Detroit and in Mississippi. He's leaning towards commercial from what he's told us in weeks past.
We should
Uh,
talk about that.
yeah,
I've got
yeah,
two commercial headaches I'd love to talk about, but we can come back to that, Frank.
yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys connected. Matesh was looking to
Not
get
yet. Yeah.
connected with you. Great.
Well,
We're
we've
in
been
California.
talking back and forth,
Oh, good.
Yeah, a
chatting
little
back
bit.
and
A little
forth.
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. That's what, we're hoping to accomplish with these meetings. Um, we're in California. We invest in a few different states, Missouri and Illinois, Indiana, and so forth. So yeah, whatever you guys have. Chris, what is your question? It's good to see you.
Well, let me be fair to everybody else. Does anybody else have any emergency urgent questions? Mine's like a medium priority, but anybody else need anything first? Otherwise, I'm happy to kick it off with some good, exciting pablum. So,
Yeah. I was actually going to ask Dawei where he is and where he invests.
Sure. Okay, let's just try to turn my lights on. It's okay.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure. Can you see me? All right.
Yes.
Good. I'm from Canada, Ontario. I invest
Oh
in
my God,
yeah.
that's awesome.
So most likely I did some multi-rats. Like in Canada, it's probably about we own like 55 units in total. It's two buildings. Um, and I'm a realtor too, but now sell in this group. And also we did a lot of like a single family home flip, rent to own. I did almost private lending, uh, buy and hold those stuff in Canada because looking for the diversity and maybe an opportunity to invest in the US. I'm very new for this group.
Mhm. Well, that's great. Do you have any markets in the US that you've been looking at?
No, not really. I'm trying to learn. I'm looking for, sorry, I just try to set up my laptop.
Mhm.
Trying to learn. I'm interested in my in-laws are live close to Philadelphia, Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Okay.
And also I'm looking for relocate to Ohio or Virginia for a job. In this case, I'm looking for a lot of places, but the most likely for me, everywhere is out of town, so it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
If the number works, um, probably start from residential, trying to see, like a long-term buy and hold, maybe some new build for now on the safe side, and see if we can take this opportunity to jump on the some deals. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Dawei, are
Yeah.
you? Frank. I was just going to comment. Dawei, are your existing units? Are they in Canada or in the U.S.?
I had well, we owned a new build, not new build. It's like my partner owned a new build. I think 35 units in Seattle.
Okay.
Um,
Okay. In
so
the
but
U.S.
yeah, in the US, but most of my properties in BC, in Vancouver, and also in Ottawa.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, dude, your experience living in a market that only doesn't have 30-year debt and only has five-ish year variable, that makes you like a guru in our world, right? That's awesome.
Yes, it's a little bit different because in Canada, the multi-families are a little bit difficult because we don't have the 1031 exchange, those stuff. It's very heavy on the tax. We do have we call the CMHC in Canada. So it's 10 years fixed or 5 years fixed. So just purchased one in 2024. It's a 27 unit,
Yep.
small one, and just we closed probably 6 months ago. Um, and well, yeah, that's basically about me. So still, I'm very new. I joined the group, I think, to this morning or
Mhm.
yesterday. This morning, yesterday maybe. So it's fairly new in the group. I see Mike did a lot of work. I thought maybe join the membership. It's just to encourage him or like show my respect to the group. And yeah, we'll start learn from here.
Yeah, that's great. When you're looking here now, would you be looking for like apartment complexes like you've already been doing?
I'm looking for I did have some residential detached home we called here long-term buy and hold. Yearly I flip 1 or 2 units with my contractor. It's like a hobby. But our holding cost is very high because the holding cost you're looking at probably 600. I usually buy it like you call the buy box, $650,000 home and purchase and sell with a land transfer tax. In Canada, it's really hard for a fleet business. So we did. I think in the US, probably I plan to buy some new build in some decent area. Like some, I did some research. Some neighborhood you probably can spend like 250, 260 brand new. You rent for 2,000. So that's very good return for Canadians. Oh, for me, that's what I'm looking for to, just test water, see how they go. Uh, yeah. And also if I'm lucky, I have a job in Ohio, so I can, settle there and start to buy and, to build the portfolios.
Okay.
Dwayne, if you get a job in Ohio, I spent a lot of time in Cleveland and Columbus. I can give you some good coaching on, or some feedback on the areas, both for living and for working, or food for
Yeah.
thought.
Actually, my job is close to Dublin, they call down the close to Columbus. So we'll see if we can jump there. Have a couple of friends live in the work in the APE, American Power Electric, in Ohio. So yeah, so it's just so you know, like we're overseas, just to test the water, see how that go.
What kind of work do you do?
Engineer.
Okay.
I used to work for the facility construction engineer, lesson in
Nice.
and also realtor. I did mortgage, real estate, realtor here in Canada. So we have 5 realtors in my group. We're national, work for Real Page, national top 2%, but trying to move the states and start to explore more on my own.
Mhm. One of the guys, he doesn't usually join our call, but he joins Jared's call on Sundays at 12:30 Pacific, and his name is Brandon Potts, and he's doing build to rent there in Texas. So that might just be another person to listen to. He's very knowledgeable.
Good to know. Yeah, so it's a very different market. I would say Canada is more traditional on the financing, on the investment side, but I do believe the core are similar in North America. Yeah, that's a very new in the group. It's more like a listening.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's great. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
So I know Chris has some commercial experience and Matesh has a little commercial experience. His stuff in Detroit, like I said, he's well, he can speak for himself, but he's doing commercial stuff in Detroit. And Chris, if you want to go ahead with your question, that'd be great.
Wait, hold on. How many doors do you have, Dawi?
I have 55.
Mm.
55 for the rest and a couple of detachable. Yeah.
When did you start on those?
I started investing in 2015. Start to build up. So before it's like I work full time, invest like a hobby to do the they call it UCO. I don't know if you guys call it ADU, legal secondary unit. We try to build those and raising capital, and later on jump to the multi-rats in 2020. We bought one in Langley, Vancouver, and one in Ottawa this year. And also we do some small multi-rats like a duplex, triplex, the side-by-side Sammy. We call this like a students rentals, all the kind of things.
How are they working out for you?
That's tough. In Canada, the multi-res is very tough. I mean, the financing is tough, especially since COVID, everything, it doesn't make sense, the number. So we try to create a financing. That's basically, we did some flip, like we bought a 24 unit, we paid 1.8 million. 2 years later, we sold up close to 5. That's a good flip. So that's a capital start. Yeah, we was very lucky to have this inflation, let's say this way. Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Have you noticed any provincial differences in terms of things like either regulations or taxes or anything like that?
I mean, you mean Canada or in the US?
The provincial ones. So like I don't remember all of them off the top of my head. British Columbia, Ontario, etc.
Yeah, they start, I think the new flip tax start kicking in BC this year. Yes, I do know the tax as a resident in Canada, so yes.
I mean, as far as like, are you seeing any like areas where like there are more favorable provincial regulations or taxes or things like that, like where you would prefer to invest in BC versus Ontario versus Saskatchewan or whatnot?
Well, I trust the locations, right? So Ottawa is more like in my hometown, so it's close by.
Gotcha.
And Vancouver, I stayed there for a year, try to explore the market during the COVID and see if we can have some deal. So we're very lucky to find one property in Vancouver. We lost a couple of them, but just we got one's pretty good. It doesn't matter, you invest, it's more like a return. The tax you have to pay, you have to pay. If you make money, you have to pay the tax. No choice.
Yeah. Reason why I was thinking about that is like there are some places here in the US where taxes are significantly more favorable. Also the cost of living as well. So depending on where some people are starting in their investing journey, it may be a little bit more favorable to start in relatively lower cost of living areas. So I was more just curious whether there's any like differences where it's like, hey, it's much more beneficial to start in like Ontario versus British Columbia and so forth.
Yeah, I think in general, Canada has higher tax in the States. Yes, I do believe, but for me, I'm more care about my profit. The tax is one of the consideration, but I do understand I need a team in the local. They helps not only from on the tax side, right? So first you have to make sure you make money. The second you have to consider your tax. That's why I'm learning different market in the US right now, see which area I want to start. I only know the what do you call like a red and the blue states and which is favorite for the landlord. I probably will start from the preferred states to explore.
Yeah, watch out for the blue areas.
Eh?
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know
a lot of
not
the
yeah.
yeah, a lot of the like landlord friendly states are what do you consider conservative or red states, and then the ones that have more regulations, usually higher taxes, are the liberal or blue states. And all that is just usually sort of top down from, I don't know what the provincial equivalent is, but it's like for each state, it's a governor. And then within the state, it's usually either a mayor for a city or a county executive for the county. So, yeah, it's usually just kind of dependent on what you see. Ohio is more conservative. Virginia is kind of a toss-up. There's a conservative governor, but most of Northern Virginia, which is the area closest to where I'm at, because of again all of the DC types, that's a little bit more liberal. But you could make it work. It really kind of depends. But yeah, generally speaking, you'll find a lot easier time investing in more of your conservative states.
Good to know. I think it probably for me, I'll try to locate where my job is, and later on, I'll try to party with a local investor group and try to learn more. I think this it's not easy. I think it will be a longer process, but I think it's a lot of learning for sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, but this is definitely a great place to be, though, for sure. Because that's literally all we're doing.
Yeah, 2025, my plan is to buy a properties in the States and start my investment and try to explore more. Because another concern for Canadians is about the currency right now. So Canada dollar is very soft. I don't want to, make 20% profit from the property and lose a 40% on my currency. So that's another concern. And I think this is a more critical for me. We do have a group. They start to do they call that. Um, they will help me to find a property in the States. They take care of the property management. We own the property, but we pay them a certain percentage to manage, or you call it asset manage or property manage. But I do really don't like that idea. trying to hands on. So yeah.
As I've had a conversation with Frank and in a couple of past accountability calls, I have been experiencing some interesting times with the property manager that I have. So definitely make sure that you do a fair amount of research on your property manager, um, because some of them will claim that they do certain things and then they don't do anything, and then you're just kind of wondering like what's going on with my asset, what's going on with my property, what's going on with my tenant, and yeah, you don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, for sure not. Because we like the multi-res we had in Canada, we have in Canada. We hire, I don't have my own set manager. I always work with the property manager to hire a third party, how to, I understand for them, the money they receive is not like a significant amount. So sometimes they only do the minimum.
Mhm.
That's a headache, but what it is, right? So that's it, what it is. So you have to find a way, try to make it work, right? So it's more like you manage the property manager, make sure they work on it. You don't want to lose your hand. I say, "Hey, you guys just do whatever you want, and I just want to receive the money." Those are very bad, I would say.
Right. Yeah, that type of a mindset is really basically just it's asking for trouble. There's always got to be some level of oversight. 'Cause I always think of the phrase or the equation, money plus lack of oversight equals corruption.
Exactly. So you have to super because
Well,
one day I remember my property manager just do the pest control in one of the unit. They spent like 1,200. I said, "What's going on?" It's a small units. So I know there's a lot of a lot of costs regarding that. So you had to jump in and make sure everything on the right track. Or you gonna bleeding. You don't know.
Yep, exactly.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Nice to meet you guys. So yeah. If you have a question for in Canada, maybe I can help, especially Ontario. But I think my intention is try to learn more from you guys, how to invest in the state.
but that way, I mean, not to extend this any further, but like the story we're getting in the US, and maybe we're naive here, is that the Canadian market's in a bit of a challenging state, right? A lot of variable rate debt, a lot of the government debating on intervening in terms of like managing that. So like, anyway, that's probably a sidebar conversation, but we would love to have you in the US market. And if you could move to Ohio, we'd love to have dinner with you. So
Yeah, I plan to. Well, they offered me a job opportunity, so that's why I plan to see if I can take it. Just to just like a first step. But in
yeah,
Canada, our average detached home probably looking at 750,000. So
yeah,
the rent is it's okay, but the affordability for me, that's kind of a bubble where that's a high
yeah.
risk. That's why I liquidated some of my assets and trying
But
to.
but Dawei, like that average home cost is, if I remember what Zuber said, is almost double. We're somewhere between 390 and 430, right? So that's almost double. But what's the rent for that, right? If you don't mind me asking, right?
Sure. So I'll give you an example. Um, like a townhome. I don't know if you call the same thing. The townhome, you're
Yeah,
looking at
yeah,
650. So you look at the rent for 2,500. The property
yeah.
tax 4,000. Insurance, you look at $1,000, maybe a little bit more, $100 per month. Um, for the landlord, you have to pay the property tax, insurance. That's hard cost.
What's property tax on something like that?
It's up to
2,000, 5,000, 10,000.
$4,500 ish. So it's very
So
tough for the investor
so
here.
break even is like 32, 3,300.
I would say at least 28. So I have a property I sold recently, $800,000. I rent 3,300. I'm bleeding.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well,
I feel for you,
isn't
man.
the 1% rule? So like for 100,000, you should be getting 1,000 in rent monthly.
no, so it would be lower than that. Yearly, like back to 2015, you look at 300 for the townhome, and probably look at 300,000. You can rent 1,500, and now it's a 650. It's 2,500. So you can see the ratio.
Yeah, that's like 0.5% per month.
If you have 0.5% in some decent cities, I mean, the decent city means a population above a million-ish, or around million, like 800,000, like 800,000 people, a city. So it's hard to get a cash flow for the residential. That's why a lot of people jump to the multi-rents, because there's no cash flow. Everybody bet for the appreciation, right? So, but it's good. I mean, some people, they make a lot of money on the appreciation. A lot of people buy the pre-construction condos, they make a ton of $1 million. But a lot of them are very sad, for this wave, for the high interest rate, they bankrupt. I see a lot of guys did that. Ottawa is different. Toronto, there are a lot of people. You will see a lot of bankrupt, because a lot of condos probably will be ready in 2025. Yeah, that's what well, sorry, Chris, just answer your question for the return, and answer your question, Mitch, sorry if I pronounce your name. Yeah, the return is not ideal. For my
Thanks.
multi-res, looking for 200 to 250 per unit. My rent is probably about 0.7% of the if I have a $200,000 unit, so I rent for 1,300, 1,400. That's ideal.
Is that, do you have a cash on cash target? That's how we're typically measuring stuff.
Yeah, cash on cash is probably, it depends, right? So for the start, you probably look at 3%, 5%. That's good. The cap rate in this rate depends on the city. Vancouver downtown, it's a 3 cap. Ottawa, you probably can buy 4.5 or 4.75.
Okay.
Small town, so you can buy, probably you can have a 6 cap. Remember, the interest rate is high, right? So
Sure.
I can just do money market right now for 5%.
Yeah, exactly.
and
Or SoFi for 3.9 or 4.1%, right? So yeah, tough market. Yeah.
yeah, well, it's hard. For 5%, you have to know if it's a real 5% or some number give you 5%.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
right. So everybody trade at 5%, but the real number doesn't meet 5%. That's just my experience. They always sell 5%. I see a property is 12 units, they list for 3 million. They tell me there's no property management, but in the front of the property, they have a sign. It's a property management company. I asked the listing agent, I said, how much you pay for property? I said, self-managed. I said,
Yeah.
okay. So, but we all use a standard calculation and try to get the thing sorted out. But it's a lot of fake numbers. Have a buddy
But
build
Dawei, in our market, we're paying, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I'll give you a ballpark. I think we're paying between 6 and 10, maybe 11% for property management. Is that consistent with what you're paying?
Well, it depends on the size, right? If you have a 1 unit, you make $2,000 a month. I'm okay. But if once you make probably $35,000-$40,000 a month, like a gross income, I think 6%, 10% is really high.
Yeah, I would agree. I think 5 to 6 is where you want to target if you have got a decent portfolio. You're about 50% higher than I am. I've got 30 units, right? So, okay.
Really, the property management here is, but it depends on what products you buy. If you buy if you own only 1 unit, I charge 8%. I have property management company myself, so I charge 8% for the residential. Anything lower $3,000 a month, I charge 8%. For students, I charge 10%.
Mm.
But for if you tell me you have a 40 units building, I tell you I charge you 8%, you won't work with me.
Yep.
I
Okay.
hope that,
Thank you. Great. You've offered great insight to this group. Thank you very much.
yeah, no worries. Yeah, this group for me is share the knowledge, experience, and to learn from each other, right?
Defend against the tenants. All of us against them. It's all good. Sorry, Frank.
Yeah, no, go ahead. You didn't get your question in there, did you?
I'm
You
good.
did. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm glad to see everybody here. We have Ryan popped in, Sean's in Atlanta. I was gonna say there's another member in school that way that is in Canada as well. His name's Stevan Dublevec, and I talked to him a couple of weeks ago, but I think he's got some properties here somewhere in the US. We'll put his name in here just so you can keep an eye out for him if you guys want to connect. He's very nice. I believe he's an instructor of some kind at a university there. Let's see.
I'm still busy here tonight making dinner.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I thought you probably were still working or something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a leak to take care of. That actually was my fault. I ended up using the old hose clamp for where the dishwasher overflow or not overflow, the drain went into the garbage disposal.
Hmm.
Because that was what I had. It still had integrity. It was an older clamp, but it still looked good. It passed the leak test.
Hmm.
But once the homeowners used it, it didn't pass the leak test anymore.
Of course. And so did you have that discharge line? Did it go right to the disposal or did it go through the air gap and then down to the disposal?
Yeah, I made it go through a Studer vent.
Okay.
Yeah, because they had granite countertops. They didn't want to drill into them.
Okay. Yeah, I know that. And on a lot of the newer dishwashers that we've installed, the instructions allow us to do the high loop, without the air gap. So we haven't had any issues with that, with the way that the dishwashers function, doing it that way. So that's been nice.
Yeah, I haven't had them either, but yeah, code here says you got to have something else.
Okay. Yeah, when we do get the jobs, if we do have a permit, the inspectors usually do make us drill and put in an air gap in the countertop.
I do have a question.
It was a quick job, 15 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, was that Chris?
No, I do still have my core question if we've got a moment, but I want to make sure other folks have time first.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I was asking for. Yeah, go ahead.
So how do you resolve? So I'm old enough now, over 50. I understand some of my core character flaws. One of them is when somebody offends my sense of honor and integrity, I tend to dig in my heels, even when it makes no sense from a business perspective. So I bought a triplex last year, 3 days, December 27th, in a small suburb of Lancaster. It's a crazy nice town. Like you're 2 blocks from the center of the town. You've got a park and cool little walking area, and it's a tourist area. It's just a great area, right? And 3 tenants, all of which were very quirky, right? And the property was managed by the former owner, who was a DIYer and a really bad one. So like everything he touched, I'm having to redo: plumbing, electrical, you name it, right? So It's all good. The two of the three tenants are annoying, and I'll probably ditch them in the next 2 years. But I've got other projects, so I'm not going to rush that. And I'll upgrade. And I've gradually been upgrading the building. I do roofing, tree removal, that sort of stuff, right? I had one tenant, young kid, like early mid 20s, right, that I inherited. And maybe I'm an idiot because I don't ask when I buy a property, I don't ask them to remove the tenants. I'm normally okay inheriting tenants because until this incident, most of their tenants have been, except for one out of 30, have been pretty good, right? Um, so this tenant lives in the building, he's a single kid, he's very unresponsive. He kind of, I'm emailing him, he's not responsive, just very quirky, pays rent, stops paying rent, you know, claims some medical illness. I'm a sucker for that because my wife had a similar issue, so I'm willing to cut them some slack. Um, I get 2 or 3 thousand bucks behind. He gets 2 or 3 thousand bucks behind. I start pushing hard and like, look, if you can't sign a separation agreement, I'm gonna have to go to eviction, right? I'm just like, come on, man, like I won't do this anymore, right? In the meantime, the two wildcard options that happen is one of my other tenants is an army vet, and I have a soft spot also for veterans. With a girlfriend who works at a local wolf preserve and has two relatively aggressive dogs. So in the meantime, what happens is these dogs interact with the dogs of my tenant who's a problem, and suddenly he gets bit, and then his dogs get bit. And I tell them like that's not acceptable, that the dogs have to go from the other tenants, right? And it takes a month or 2 months, right? Because she's, the girlfriend who owns the dogs has to find a place to stay, and they're gone a month or two later, right? But so I get this tenant out. He signs a separation agreement. He agrees to pay me back rent about $3,000 or $4,000, which I mean, frankly, if I didn't get it, I wasn't counting on it, so it's not a big deal. So that was back in like October-ish, and I kind of write it off. But just for grins over Christmas, I send a note and says, "Hey, like you signed this agreement, you promised to start paying, and I haven't gotten payment." And I expected a lot of different responses, not the one I got, which was like, "Hey, I was coerced into signing that separation agreement because I threatened to evict him, right? And I'm going to go to the criminal. I'm going to go to the police about the dog incident, and you know, and yada yada yada, right? That kind of like nonsense, right? And and the problem is that when I feel like somebody's offended me in that way from a sense of honor, I tend to dig in my heels, right? And my first response was, look, like you signed a lease, which you violated. You signed a separation agreement promising to pay back rent, which you violated. If you're wanting to go to the police, that's fine, right? But by the way, that doesn't go after me because I evicted the dogs, right? It took 30 or 60 days, but I can't put somebody on the street with their dogs. Um, but but if you want to go after those tenants, by the way, who I have a good relationship with, I just told them that you threatened to do criminal proceedings, and yeah, they're pretty pissed, right? And so he's offering like a fraction of the back rent, threatening like criminal, threatening to take me to court, countersuit, yada yada yada. Look, I could walk away from that $3,000. It would not matter a whit to me. But there's a sense of principle here, and more importantly, to quote like Matt, a sense of inflicting this schmuck on a new landlord that just really worries me, right? So I came back. I had my wife read the note because my first note was a bit inflammatory. And basically I was like, look, I'm really comfortable in our position. You violated it. I've got proof. The dogs, I evicted the dogs. And by the way, if you want to go after the people who own the dogs, I talked to them and their story is your dogs attacked them, right? So you can talk to the police, but good luck with that, right? So I said, stop wasting my time or send me something in writing. So suddenly he wants my address. He's going to send it. But there's a part of me deep inside that wants to like, I'd be happy to spend 10 grand to grind this guy into the dust. And he's a 23, probably a 26-year-old kid who isn't worth it. So I'm going to walk away from that. But like, that's my emotional barrier I'm trying to work through. Does that make sense, Frank? It may not make sense, but do you understand it?
Yeah, it does.
It
It's
basically sounds kind of like ego or pride. The one thing that just
Yeah.
kind of screams at this is, for me, it's what Matt says. It's the bullshit to money ratio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's why I was like, do I just walk from this? Literally, I told him, like, dude, I'm putting your chat on mute until you send me an offer. And by the way, you've made 10 offers before and you've never delivered. So like you send me something with cash and I'm interested. Otherwise, don't waste my time. I'm putting this in mute. So, and I can walk away from this and it would not impact me in a material way, but it bothers me from a principal perspective. And that's probably a fault of my own. So does that make sense,
So,
Chester?
yeah,
You
so
need to get rid of them right away.
He's already out. He's already
yeah, he's
out. So
already gone.
yeah, he's already gone. He's
I
been
would
gone
say,
since August, right?
yeah, since he hasn't paid you anything, then he's not going to.
Yeah.
I think at this point, the easiest thing is, unless he tries to come after you for anything, you've done everything that you've needed to do. You've got everything in writing. I say simply wipe your hands clean. Don't bother with it anymore, especially because it's not going to be materially significant in terms of collecting the back rent. So personally, wash your hands of it. Just your peace of mind and your sanity is not worth anything.
Yeah.
This guy.
Chester, you're so right, but it doesn't make me feel good about it.
Can't you go to small claims?
I could do small claims, but the issue is here's the only thing that concerns me, right? He countersues, and even though I think I've got the right, did I evict the dogs fast enough? Can he, and more importantly, will this get to my insurance company and that screws up literally the rest of my portfolio? So this is like one small unit in a portfolio of 30. Like that is not worth it, right? To Chester's point. So that yeah.
Here's what I would
I
recommend.
think you just said the key word.
What's that, Sean?
No, I
Insurance?
think Chris, I think the phrase you just said, it's not worth it. I think that's
It's not
key.
worth it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in a worst case scenario, I think like if he does, I don't think he will try anything. I think it's more just kind of not really
Posturing.
poke the bear,
Yeah.
but yeah, more just posturing. If he does try to quote unquote go the nuclear option, I would get in touch with like a local attorney, a local eviction attorney, give them a quick rundown. Hey, here's what's been going on. And just maybe, I don't know, like 15, 30 minutes of their time just to kind of like say, hey, if this does end up going nuclear, so to speak, meaning going to court, what things would you as an eviction attorney want to see, or how could something like that
Yeah.
play out? Like beyond that, I don't think this is worth any more of your time personally.
Yeah. I know you're right, Chester. It just really it just gnaws my gut. But I know you're right, but God, it just pisses me off. So
Yeah, it used to get to me like in a very similar way, but then I like just thought about it in terms of like, morals, principles, upbringing, like,
business.
just
It's a
this
business
sense of
decision,
pride.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well,
go
what
ahead,
landlords
Nitesh.
need to do is they need to find a service that reports on the credit.
Yeah, I mean,
Late and no
that's
pay.
the one biggest gap. You're so right. That's the one biggest gap I've seen is I have no way.
It's almost
Yeah,
the
I
same
could
as
get a judgment, but I can't report on like bad payment history, which is just bugs the crap out of me, right?
I mean, late and no payments. They're the same as eviction almost. If another landlord sees that.
Well, but I think it's different because I and this is right or wrong. This is my humble perspective. An eviction is a judgment ruling out of the court, which is like, that's a whole different level of, but
No,
like
but
if I miss my credit card payment, it gets reported to credit agencies, but it's not a
Right.
court judgment. It's like, how do I
Yeah,
get that?
But if it shows rent, you're late by 3 months. It's
Yeah,
on the report, and the
it
guy
should be
goes
there.
to rent something else. Somebody's going to look at that.
Yeah. I wish I could get that on the report. That's the piece I'm missing. without going to court. Because, by the way, he left. He's like, oh well, I might go back to my
So
parents in
my
West Virginia,
my
and
property man,
that doesn't help me because like I need a local address to be able to serve him with papers,
my
right? So
my
that's the problem.
yeah, my property manager, he says he can go back to the start of the lease and report on all the lates. He can
Wow.
go back and report on. It's like $25 a month, though. That I think that's the reason why nobody wants to report.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. But to your point, that's a great point, Mitesh. Like if I inherit a property, if I buy a property and I inherit tenants, I would be willing to pay $25 a month for that until I update the rent,
And it keeps them in
evaluate
line
their
too.
stability, and then I could make a decision to cancel that or whatever. But that would be an interesting option.
I mean, I can ask my property manager who
Yeah,
he was using.
that would be really interesting.
I was using e-rent payment before, but that was a voluntary by the renter. They had to check market to report on their credit report.
Yeah.
And apparently it makes an impact too, because just like 2 days ago, I was talking to a tenant who I do Zillow leases, or I did with her,
Mm.
and Zillow has an option that the tenant can activate to report their payments through Zillow to the credit card company or to the credit rating agencies. And she told me that since she turned that on, and she's on time every time, right? Since she turned that on, she said her credit scores went way up. So it makes a difference.
Yeah, we need something that the landlord turns on automatically.
Right.
Chris, I must have missed something. When did the tenant leave after he was late?
Yeah,
A month or two?
I kept threatening, like after the first month, and they were like, "Oh, I've got this medical issue. I've got some autoimmune disease and I was like a little sympathetic. I waited to the second month. First month I got a late payment. Second month I got a partial payment, and then I got nothing. So like by the third month, I was like, "Look, man, either you pay or I'm going to take you to eviction." He's like, "Well, I'm going to get another job. I'll figure it out." I gave him 2 weeks, nothing, and then
This
I
is
changed
where
and yeah, and
this
I
is
changed month
where
to bi-monthly, and then I was like, "Look, man, I'm just going to take you to you can. I don't think you're not going to earn enough to cover this because his roommate left, and there was that kind of complexity, right? I'm like, you're not going to make enough to cover this rent." And I and guys, I'll just be honest here. I was an idiot the way I handled this. I should have jumped on it like after the first month on the eviction side, but um, so he probably left. I want to say August or September, and and meanwhile, and the good news, I mean, it's a good news thing that I've been able to renovate the unit and accelerate a lot of the renovations, and that's all good. But it wasn't my timeline I was expecting, so it's kind of screwing with my cash flow. But yeah. But now I'm like 3 months. But he signed. I said, look, if you want to sign a separation agreement, I'll add the lease early. But I'll give you a 2 month grace period. Then you start to pay back the 3 or 4 grand over like a 300 or 400 bucks a month. I was trying to be generous, and that was every time. I feel like Frank, every time I'm generous to a tenant who I've had issues with, it always screws me over. Right? Generosity is never repaid. That's the thing that I've learned, and the lesson I continue to fail to absorb, but continue to get screwed on. Sorry, guys.
It's that first not missed payment. That's like a huge red flag.
I
And
know,
it's
I
just
know,
all
and
downhill
I know
from
that
there.
in my brain, but in my heart, I'm like, oh, he's got a health issue. My wife had that issue. I kind of feel bad. So like, I'm an idiot. And
Chris,
look, in the grand portfolio, this is not a financial issue. This is a philosophical moral issue, which I just have to get over, right? So
Yeah, I'm at
Chris,
a point where I don't care what it is. It's like
yeah,
you should have saved up money, right?
yeah.
And it's not my problem. Sorry.
this sounds exactly like how when Dion got started with his first tenant. I'm telling
Yeah.
almost exactly, Chris.
I know. And I maybe I've been abnormally lucky because this is only this is the first time I had to really stop paying rent. I bet people were like, oh, I'm gonna be a week late, but like this is after 4 years, the first time I've really had a real issue. And so maybe I'm a slow learner. What can I say?
No, Mitesh was just saying a week or two ago that exact same thing. The nicer you are, the more breaks you give, the more advantage,
The more you get screwed. Oh my God, that
exactly.
sucks.
Yeah, if you would have said that he moved out, signed an agreement to pay rent that he owed after he's already out, and he would have actually paid you, that would have been newsworthy.
That would have been a record, right? Like Guinness Book, right?
It ain't gonna happen.
But I mean, to your point, like I just wanted to get him out, and I got him out, and I got the unit
Right.
renovated. And I'm
That's
gonna be able to
the
do
win.
it.
He's out. That's the win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I'll be able to do
amazing.
maybe $400-500 more a month, and that's great. But yeah, oh my God, like so. Anyway, maybe I just need to vent, guys, but I appreciate you listening to my
Yeah.
venting because I was stupid. Yeah.
No, yeah, just like you said, Matt. And Matt always says, just treat it like a business. And it is hard sometimes. And that's why, I've told Dion before, because his comment is always, if you don't have a backbone, you need a property manager. And that's why I have property managers.
hmm
Emphasis on good property managers.
Yeah. I think mine are pretty good. I am starting to look for a new one for the Illinois property just because of the lack of communication. And that's a big one for me. All the other people I can call or email and get a hold of somebody fairly quickly, but
Yeah.
this lady is just not offering anything. So
Yeah.
she's going to be out. If I can find a good replacement, I've reached out to Aaron Amin, the Remote Real Estate Investing Academy, and his partner have offered some suggestions, and I've reached out to our property manager in St. Louis. He doesn't manage on the Illinois side, but he's checking around to see if there are any other, because that's a franchise, RPM, and they have offices all over. So I'm really happy so far with our RPM people.
Hey, Frank, can I offer 2 thoughts?
Sure.
Thought one, because I've got a similar situation. Like we're self-managing 25 out of 30, but we inherited one that was really good, and they sold to another property management company, and now they're weak. They're weak tea, right? So, one is we have what I've learned is you can mine a property manager for all their subcontractors, like landscaping, electrical, plumbing, extermination. And they're actually really good. Like, and because they have to send us the receipt. So I would say mine them for all of their value from their subcontract relationships, because those guys will still work with you. If you're like, hey, I'm working with you through this PM, I got another property I manage myself, would you help me? Like, and 2 is if you start to examine the bills, there may be some additional harvesting for you there of value. Like I examined the bill, and like they were repaving a parking lot, not repaving, it was like a gravel parking lot, and the guy's like, oh well, we can lay down some more gravel, we can compact it, it'll be fine. And they did it, and like after like 60 days, like it was back into like the ruts and the erosion, and the guy's like, what's going on? And like, oh well, one of our guys wanted to do this as a side job, he'd never done it before, but we let him try it. And I'm like, guys, like you made me pay for that? Like, are you effing kidding me? Like, so anyway, food for thought. But like before you cut them loose, I would mine them for every ounce of value they have from a subcontract relationship. Even you have to ask them like, hey, I know we never did electrical, but I got another property, would you give me a good electrical recommendation? Like I would mine them for all that value, and then I would go back and I would do a retroactive audit on all the invoices. I wouldn't be surprised if you find something you could be like, guys, like, yeah, you owe me $2,000, and then after you get that, yeah, I'm cutting you guys loose, right?
The only thing I'm afraid of is them taking advantage of me outside the property manager. So they can mess around with you and give you high estimates.
Yeah, they can.
Yeah, so that's the only thing I'd be concerned about if you go directly with.
Yeah. No,
That's why you get more than one.
fair. Yeah, I
That's
wouldn't
why
rely, exactly.
I would,
Don't rely on them as your soul, but I found that they'll give you a good set of competitive options. Sorry.
yeah.
It's
And one
just-
of the other considerations also being Thumbtack as well, so that way
Yeah.
you can competitively bid and outsource it so that it's not simply, one off, hey,
Well,
Joe
I
Close
just,
Schmumma.
I just assume a good property manager like will bargain them down.
Yeah.
That's what a good property manager does.
And
Again,
Mitesh, that's
emphasis
exactly
on
right
good
because
property manager.
yeah, Mitesh, I would say that's exactly right because I will say the contractors I've got from my property manager, like their costs are better than the folks that I'm using normally, right? So that's why I say it's worth minding them for that because you'll get a better cost structure, and then you can
Well,
leave them.
you're assuming
Yeah.
that they'll give you the same price that they do the property manager, and I don't
Yeah,
assume that.
yeah, that's a fair point. I found it's mixed, right? I'm getting the same cost structure from some of them, and I'm getting a slightly higher cost structure from others. But I will say this, I'm not getting a worse cost structure than the folks I'm using normally. I'm getting somewhere between a slightly better to a way better. So hey, look, you know, make your own judgment, do your own analysis, but I would say it doesn't hurt to get that additional set of options, and then you can make the judgment. I mean, now you have an even broader set of options. You can quote a broader set, get a better competitive benchmark, and then make your decision. So food for thought, right? Just my view.
Yeah, I think my experience so far with estimates from the property manager have been higher than the one. So I did get some resources from the agent that we bought with in St. Louis, and the people that I've reached out, I even found one myself, but all their estimates have been much lower than my PMs. For example, this recent one, just to change out a shower tub valve, the PM said it would be between, I believe he said 900 to 1500, and I couldn't stomach that. So when I checked in with the plumber that had done some work for us, he went and replaced them for $400, and that's been pretty common. So I think and then the PM adds, I think they said 12% on top of the bids for managing. So I've been able to save
Yeah,
some good
that's
money that
not a
way.
good property manager.
Yeah,
love-
that sounds
Yeah.
really dicey. If you're
I
not
love-
getting stuff that is at least better than what you can get as a third party, like independent evaluation, that's a red flag in my mind.
Yeah, I love everything else about the guy. He has 3 of our properties now, and I like the way he does everything else. It was just the estimates that we were getting were pretty outrageous.
Frank, where are you at in Illinois? Where do you invest it?
Hey, Peggy, we're well, in Illinois we have one single family in Cahokia, and
Okay.
then we have 3 single families in St. Louis on the other side.
Okay, I was just curious because I'm like right on the border of Illinois, so I was thinking like South Beloit area. But I don't know I know Illinois is not as landlord friendly state as Wisconsin is, so I was just kind of curious where you're at.
Oh yeah, we've only been there. We've had that property for a little over a year. We got that
Okay.
one through a turnkey provider in that area, and we do have a duplex in Milwaukee as well.
Oh, okay, yeah, haven't heard good things about Milwaukee either. So I'm like, oh, it's so tricky. So that's fine. I was just kind of curious. I'm like, oh, because my property manager he's not able to manage in Illinois, so and I don't know if he would go to Milwaukee just because he's more local around here. But no, just trying to get other ideas.
Yeah, where are you looking to buy somewhere in that area now?
Um, I just actually got an offer on a house last night. That they finally accepted. So, but I'm still gonna. I do a lot of like yellow letters and driving for dollars,
Hmm.
but there has to be a better way to do it to find properties. So I'm just trying to come up with a better way because I've a couple of my yellow letters I sent out the last year, the other previous years I've gotten a few deals from. So, but yeah, just trying to look to see because there's just nothing out here or around here that even makes much sense. So
Will you remind me where you're at?
I'm in Wisconsin,
Oh, you
south
are.
of
Okay.
Wisconsin. Yeah, south of Wisconsin. Like I'm probably about half an hour from from South Beloit in Illinois.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a couple other people. Brett hasn't been with us for a while, but he's in Milwaukee and he's got a bunch of duplexes there and he does a lot of his own work. Um, our other friend Cody, he's up near Appleton in Wisconsin.
Okay.
I don't know of anybody else on the Illinois side, but we have a triplex up in St. Joseph, Missouri, and we really are happy with that property manager, and he's the one who recommended the one that we signed up with in St. Louis. And so like I said, I'm happy with their systems. I was just surprised at the variance in estimates that we were getting.
Yeah, my property manager, I mean, I pay 8%, but they don't upcharge for like contractors or
Hmm.
anything like that. So, which is nice. Like I got a letter from Alliant Energy about some kind of coding for some kind of, I don't know what it was, a bail or something. So I send him a picture. I'm like, can you take care of this for me? He's like, yep. I'm like, thanks. So it's nice not having to deal with all that, trying to find contractors. I had a hard time finding contractors, but
And the PM that you're talking about is in Wisconsin?
yeah.
Okay. We're with Smart Asset. I don't know if you've heard of them.
Mm-mm.
But we changed because we were with was it? I forget who we were with, but we were with that first company when we got the property a couple of years ago, and we switched to Smart Asset because another investor gave us. He has like 80 properties in Wisconsin, and his name is Chester. You probably know who I'm talking about.
He's
Justin
talking about
Campbell?
as far as
Justin Cambra. Yeah. So Justin, I met him in February when we went down to Las Vegas last year and
Okay.
told him my story. But Smart Asset, he has all his properties with them, and he recommended them, and I've been super happy with them. Their systems are similar to what I've experienced with RPM in St. Louis, and so far so good. Their eviction was like a third of the cost of what our previous PM was charging. They were charging $1,500. We had 2 evictions in October. They were $485 each, and then the onboarding cost was $400 per unit versus half a month's rent or a whole month's rent, which we've seen with some of the other groups.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Peggy, have you considered Madison or any of the nearby outlying suburbs of Madison, or no?
Yeah, the problem is that I buy all cash. And
Gotcha.
so, unless they're rented out, I might be able to, put a loan on because the bank's gonna use that. But then if I put a loan on it right away and do it that way, then I'm pretty much out of cash. Um, so I thought about doing maybe some flips, but I just have enough to like buy the property and not enough to fix it up depending on how much it needs in it. So, because I mean, one of a couple of my properties I bought for like 47.50. This one I'm buying for 80. I mean, it's been on the market for over 100 days. It was listed for 124. So, and it doesn't need much work, just carpet cleaning and maybe a fridge, maybe a stove, but they don't work. But I'm hoping I can get 13 or 14 for rent out of it.
And those are
Right.
single families?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I can't, unfortunately, I'm not able to get duplexes to the cash flow in my market. I ran the numbers all so many different ways and they just don't cash flow. $20 isn't worth it.
Right.
Yeah, we bought our duplex from it was kind of like a wholesaling group that used to do a lot of business in Milwaukee, and we paid $228 for that duplex. It was built in 76, and each side rents for $1,350. So it does okay, but it's not as good as some of our other stuff.
Hey, Frank, did you let your property manager know that he got high bids?
I did. I have I don't know, like I said, I'm liking the relationship. So the property manager, the main guy that owns the company, has always been, like I said, easy to get hold of, but he has, I guess, assistants. So this one assistant that's been helping us with our rehabs, um, I let him know the difference because originally it started because their contractors were busy and it was going to take them a few weeks to be able to get to ours. And I checked in with them to see if it was okay for me to find someone to do the work that could get to it sooner. And he was fine. And he was like, honestly, you'll most likely save some money, not just on the estimate, but on the, you won't have to pay the 12% for us to manage it either. So I did have that conversation, and that's one of the things I like about them. They're willing to listen to me and we'll work things out in that respect. So
But they're admitting they're way more expensive than the other guys.
yeah, they did.
Hey guys, happy New Year, everyone.
Hey, Sam.
Hope you guys have a wonderful one, and hope 2025 will be great for all of you guys, investors, and for stability and growing and growth and all that. So fingers crossed for all of us here, for a great year ahead. And I have a question for the group. If want to see what's your advice, when listening to your advice on it. And there's a property that showed up in the market. I looked at it, and that was probably 3-4 months ago. And it's a big house, um, probably 2,500 square feet. It's built in 1974, and so that's how I offered the price on it, and then back and forth with the owner and the seller agent, and it didn't work out. So, and then after maybe a month, they went under contract with another buyer, and then after that, after a month, maybe it went back to market. And then in a week, it went back to market. It went into contract again. So, so it's been a month, another month now. It's been under contract. And just last week, maybe even 4 days ago, the property went back on market. So seems like this is the second buyer who kind of failed to buy it. I'm not sure why. Now it's old one, maybe it needs upgrades, but the potential there is turning it into uh, some kind of duplex, with the right permits and the right information there. And um, so, but what happened is like I was just fixing to look at it again, maybe talk to my agent, but then just today, it's now off market, so it's not on the market anymore. They took they took the listing away, and so I'm trying to just chat with the group and see what you think before I reach out to my agent, and you know kind of I can go and just say, hey, I'm interested. I'm still want to sell it. This is my offer. Blah blah blah. Or I'm just thinking because I talked to I went to the neighborhood yesterday. I talked to some neighbors. And see that this group or this couple that own the property, they went to their hometown. They now moved to their hometown, so they're selling it. It needs a lot of upgrades, but they're selling it now. And so I'm just trying to see. So now it went under contract twice, and they failed to sell it, and then now they took it off market. So I'm thinking, I'm not sure what their next step would be. I'm trying to look at the psychology of the seller now at this point. Like, what are they thinking, and what they're what are the next step in order for me to to be able to maybe get it for the right price or to get it for the best terms. And so they don't do seller financing, but like just traditional is fine. But I'm trying to see what the intention. I'm trying to think before I talk to my agent and say, go and approach the seller agent. What do you guys think? Like, would be what is the next step for the seller at this point? What they're trying to do? They took it off market today. They didn't sell it for 2 times. It was under contract for 3 months now, and then they failed. They failed. And so,
What
I don't
area?
know. Well, the area I'm in Texas. I'm north of Houston. I not like I'm an hour north of Houston. It's a city that is, it's a good city, good sized city. It's a small city, but it's a good sized city. They have called Conroe. Um,
Sam, have they been
It's-
dropping, they been dropping the price in the price history?
so yeah, Sean, when they went back to market, it was the same price. Um, but then let's say it was 209. That's what they're offering for 209,000 dollars. And at that time I offered them 180, and but that was like 2 months ago, and they didn't want to sell it. Um, and then
Well,
went under
if they've been
contract
on and
couple.
off the market for 3 months, I'd have my agent send them 180 again and see what they did. That's what I'd do.
That's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
I would
That's what I
also,
was thinking.
And tell your agent if they say no, ask them why. Say, because hey, I've saw this has been on and off, under contract and pending or whatever, and just see what information your agent can find it. Because sometimes the seller's agent will talk to your agent and you can find out some information that might help you craft your offer.
that's what I was going to say too. I
Yeah.
would always be interested to find out why it fell out of contract. Was it something to do with an inspection? Sometimes if one of the previous buyers might have had an inspection and we've been able to pay for half of the inspection and get a copy. So
Yeah,
maybe
or sometimes they give it. Sometimes they give it for free, even. Yeah, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like that might be the case. I was a plan. I'm planning for sure because I think at this point with 2 buyers, I'm sure one of them have an inspection report at least. Hopefully they have one. And I was gonna look at it now. And but yeah, that was the other thing I was planning to get from the seller agent to provide us with that. Um, but yeah, so
Yeah, you could
uh,
always offer
that
them and see if they counter, and have your agent, just tell your agent, hey, I want you to ask around on this one and find out why it's, going on and off market.
right, right, yeah, yeah, and yeah,
Sam?
that's probably
Hey,
yes,
Sam,
sir.
this is Lars. Hey, I'm
Hey,
going to
guys,
ask you a couple questions here. Hey, what was the price when they initially put it on the market?
that's a good question. So they put it back. Can't
No,
remember, but I
the
think it
first time
was
they put it on the market, what was their first price?
yeah, it's
What was
probably it's probably they put it on the market in probably in August. Yeah, I can say now safely last year, right? Because now but
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean you can say August.
August. They put it in August, and the price was they put it at 249. So it's like
Okay.
two forty
I
nine,
bet you
and
okay, so I think what's going on here, I could be totally wrong here. What could be here is that they may win under contract, they may be an inspection, and the guy trying to negotiate below 200. And I bet you they have a mental block at 200,000. They're like, hey, we put it on for 250. We brought it down to 220 or whatever, and then we brought it back to 209. Now everybody's offering us in the ones, nobody's giving us in the twos, and we at this point in time, at this point in time, we're going to keep it because we are going to get 200,000. And if we have to wait till June or July of this, until June or July to try to get 220 for it or 210, then that's what we're going to do. So I think what I would do is I would try to figure out with seller financing how you can make it work at 210, whatever that is, and just go to them and say, look, or maybe or if you can make it work, your numbers with a certain amount of seller financing at 215, right? But they have to carry a note of 70% or something like that. Give it a shot. Give them when you go to the offer, you say, look, here's my offer, 180. Or if you want 215, this is what you have to carry, 50% of the note or 40% of the note, but I'll give you your 215. So that might be the play there, right? Because I bet you they have a mental block at 200 or maybe even 209. I don't know. But I bet you because it started at 250, they're like, okay, we brought it down, but they're just not going to go below 200 unless they absolutely have to. And maybe they don't feel like they have to.
You're very right. Now that you mentioned that, I do remember. I think their number was 200 at that time, and then they didn't want to go below that, and they were okay to put it in the market for they said at that time, a few months ago, they said it's still early, we are not going below 200, and that was you're right. But the other thing is like I did ask them at that time about self financing, and that was an option on the table, and they were not interested in that. Although it's a
But
good
that was
option,
before it fell out of contract twice.
but that was
So give
before.
it this time.
Yeah, yeah, that can be. This could be now an option because if like we said, if it's a mental, that's the mentally they fits on 200,000, that might be an option now versus before. Yeah, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean it will need this property will need. It seems like it has galvanized. I talked to the neighbors yesterday. I had a good conversation with them, and nice neighborhood, nice neighbors. Seems like most of them have been there, living there for 30 years, and they like it. No issues with in the neighborhood. No, you know, and I think the only thing they mentioned is that they have galvanized pipes that the neighbor like next door was. He said it's not a problem. We plan to replace them. I think my neighbor replaced them, but I'm trying to replace them. But so far, there's no issue. And I did ask about like the drainage and what kind of pipes they have, and he said I think he mentioned PVC. So I don't remember if at 1974 property was it maybe you guys know, but it was it the cast iron mostly, or was it still PVC or still was available at that time in the 70s when this property was built. He said, I don't know, but I think it's PVC on the drain side, yeah, pipe. And I was like, in my mind, that's great because now I don't have to deal with, you know, galvanized pipes, but also the most expensive one would be if it has cast iron and drains and that goes into the slab and all that. So that would be the most expensive. But was PVC available in the 70s? Does anyone know? PVC drain pipes.
I think there's a good chance it might be ABS. So PVC is the white stuff and ABS is the black plastic. But that would all be pretty evident in the inspection. Does that home have a crawl space or is it on a slab like your other places?
It's on a slab. It's got a slab. Yeah, it has a slab.
So that's one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm always a little bit leery of. because, and I think Anna had a little bit of experience with that in her place, one of her places, that it had a leak and it was on a slab. And to do that, they have to bust up concrete to get to the leaks, sometimes even if it's copper plumbing and it's run under the slab, copper really only has a life expectancy of about 25 years. So then, then that could be an issue. And then again, if the plumbing is whatever it is, if it's under the slab, you're going to have to dig it up if there's an issue. So I would make sure
Yeah,
about
that'd
that.
be a good thing. Is ABS pipes still okay?
What's that?
Are ABS, you mentioned the type of pipe, is that still a good option? Like, does that still work if it's not PVC, it's ABS type?
Yeah, I still use ABS all the time. So it's still
Oh,
a common pipe, and ABS is a little bit newer. I know, like in some of our properties in St. Louis, when they do upgrades to the plumbing, they'll use PVC, which is the white stuff, but it's basically the same plastic.
So I have a little update about how they did it when the pipe was leaking through the in the concrete slab. So I just got a report from the vendor and then the narratives and then the price that I guess I ended up paying was that they rerouted pipes through the wall and then go through the attic and then they fixed it. So that was $1,300 instead of I guess tens of thousands. So hopefully that'll work, but just to add.
Yeah, so that was my other thought, because sometimes when you have a slab for the incoming water, they can either take it under the slab and poke it up where the bathrooms and the kitchens are, or if you have an attic space, they'll run it overhead. So the water comes from the street to the outside of the building, then it goes up the wall and goes into the attic, and then they drop it down in the bathrooms and the kitchens for the hot and cold supplies and for the water heater. I like that better because you can access it and you can work on it if there's a leak. But if it's under the concrete, it's a lot more difficult. But they can't really do that with the drain waste and vent. Well, the vent pipes, yes, but the drain and waste have to go down, under the concrete to the street. So if it's plastic, I would be more comfortable with that than galvanized or cast iron or anything like that. Well, that's not old enough to have clay pipes. We had a house before it was built. I think it was built in the 50s, and that had clay pipe, and that is usually put together in 4-foot sections. So if the earth moves a little bit, wherever there's a joint, it can open up, and then roots and everything gets into that joint to start clogging up the pipe. So I had to replace the clay with plastic. But yeah, those are just things to look for, and those are things you can find out during the inspection.
yeah, thank you guys. This is very helpful. Gonna see, the next step here, and yeah, thanks for the feedback. Yeah, appreciate it. We'll see what happens with it, and I'll approach my agent soon. So yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, great. Let us know what they say.
Will do.
Anybody else got anything? Hi, Lindsay. How are you? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Happy New Year's, guys.
Yeah, Happy New Year's. We're looking forward to your Friday at 8 o'clock, isn't it?
Yes, starting this Friday with Vincent.
Great. So yeah, so Lindsay being in school, took on the out-of-state investing group, and their first meeting is this Friday at 8 a.m. I'm hoping I can
Pacific
be there.
time.
Yeah, Pacific, yeah. That'll be cool to see who else jumps in there with you. I know.
Yeah, I think Vincent has extensive experience out of state investing, and I just started 2 years ago. So he was looking for a co-host, and any way I can help him, then I will.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think I've run across Vincent. What is his story? Do you know any of it?
I just talked to him briefly, so he's good friends with Michael Subert. So he's been investing. He's also in California. He lives, I think, in Sacramento area, and he invests in Alabama, and he does fix and flips in California as well.
Okay. So he's in Alabama. I think Anna was looking forward to seeing this group get started. She's in Alabama and in Washington. She has units in both, so that'll be great.
Yeah, awesome.
Which
Is that AM or
Alabama,
PM?
AM.
which
Thank you.
Alabama is Vincent investing in, Lindsay?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm sure he told me, but we just talked in
Okay.
passing.
Alrighty.
But check it out on Friday if you guys have time.
Yeah,
Is it
we'll
going to
look
be
forward to it.
recorded?
I'm not 100% sure. He's the main host. We'll ask him if that's okay with him. Then we can replay it. I hope we could record it.
Yeah, I know you have your channel. She has a channel called Linda's Investing. And if Vincent has a channel, I know Jared has been replaying some of their Sunday meetings on his channel. So hopefully that's a possibility. If not, maybe he would let you put them up on your channel.
Maybe. That would be interesting. I'm new to all of this, you guys, so YouTube is kind of complicated still for me.
Yeah, I mean, you hear me talk about that all the time. I don't know. I'm lucky that I can turn this meeting on for you guys every week, but we've learned a lot since the beginning. It is it is very challenging to go live. That takes some practice, at least on YouTube. But Mark, he's not with us tonight. The financial firefighter was saying that StreamYard and Restream, apparently you just have to push one button and you can do it. But on YouTube, you have to go back and forth between Zoom and YouTube and change some settings before you go live, at least on the computer. I've gone live a couple times on my phone, and it is a lot easier that way.
Yeah. I know a lot of you guys prefer to go live and just record yourselves. I'm not at that point yet.
Yeah, I mean, like Zuber says, it is what it is, right? There's no time to edit. I think going live, especially in like an interview type scenario, it's nice because it just flows naturally. You don't have to worry too much about a script or anything like that. At least that's been my experience. And my wife and I were just talking about how it's a shame that a lot of people worry so much about what other people think about them. So you just have to let that go, and whatever happens, happens. I don't think there are too many ways you can get your channel canceled, so that's been good for me. But yeah, just go for it. I love your channel.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else is happening? Jack, are you working or you're still off, huh?
Yeah, I go back Friday.
Okay. Yeah, and obviously, I saw your comment about my last video. Jack gave me a hard time because I was thanking you all, as many people as I could remember at the time, for this past year, and jumping on these calls and all your contributions. And you've helped us. Cynthia and I have learned a lot from you guys. And I didn't mention Jack, but so Jack, we really love you and respect you for what you're doing and your channel. Lindsay's channel is Lynn, Lin, does investing. And there's Sam's. Sam's been doing some cool stuff too, showing his rehabs and things like that. It's really educational. Let's see.
I guess the biggest
Oh,
thing
yeah,
for me
thank
that I'm kind of just in a waiting phase right now. I'm waiting on some quotes. The fifth, I'm waiting for the fifth to come around so I can it'll be a month so I can actually remove the eviction people stuff. I'm going to throw it all in my enclosed trailer. I do have a question, and I guess there's really no wrong answer. I'm just kind of curious to see what the group has to say overall. Would you try to then sell a lot of their stuff if anything is worthwhile? Or I was thinking about just taking it straight to one of those places like a donation for just a tax write-off to put towards my taxes, just to offload it as fast as I can.
This is Lars. I honestly think, and maybe I'm wrong here, and I would love to hear other people's, if other people have a different idea, then that's great. Is getting money out of yard sales is about being the first one of the, like if you're going to sell it, it's about being the first one of the very first of the season, right? Like when people start going looking in the springtime. So, I mean, if you try to sell it right now, if you're trying to sell it in January or February, you're probably better off just donating it. However,
Yeah.
if you have the storage room and so forth, and you want to, I'll say gamble, but it's kind of gambling, but it's not really gambling, right? And just hold it and just be like the first one who has a yard sale with all the stuff, of the springtime, like maybe, of the springtime, just be like the first one when the seasons turn and everything, that you might make more off of it. But if you're like, hey, I'm not going to store this for 2 or 3 months, you're better off just donating it and taking the tax write-off. My opinion.
Yeah, because if I store it, I have an enclosed trailer. I'm just going to shove everything inside of there, and if I'm going to store it, just keep it in there.
Yeah, so then it comes down to the calculation. Are you, because if I don't know, I think don't yard sales usually start right around March or April, right?
Something like
March,
that,
April,
yeah.
May, right? So if you are really busy, if you are normally really busy that time of the year where you can't find a Friday, Saturday, Sunday to do it, then you're better off donating it. But if it's, but if that's not a super busy time, because I don't know what you do I don't know if you're a real estate investor for a living, or if you do something, or you have a W-2 job, or you do something else, a contractor of a different sorts. I would also keep that in mind too. What is your normal, how busy are you normally during the time of the year you'd want to put it up for a yard sale?
I know also you're talking about that and it gave me a secondary thought. My neighbor, he does yard sales all throughout the year as a secondary stream of income. I'm wondering if I could talk to him and either make like an agreement and have him actually sell it and take a cut of it.
Oh,
Do
yeah.
And
something
that
like
might be
that.
better, and that might be more profitable for you than donating it to for taxes. Besides, let's call a spade here. You donate something, you get a slip and you write off on the taxes. And, a lot of times when you donate something, they just write down, 500 items or something like that. So if you get, if you end up getting audited and so forth, and you don't have it, and you don't have your own detail list to match up, what you donated and everything, it can be painful. When I went to school, one of my college friends, his dad would go around right towards the end of the yard sale and say, "Oh, how much stuff you have left?" And he's like, "Oh, I'll give you, I'll give you $200 for whatever's left." And so, and they would agree to it, and they'd bring the truck, he'd get the truck and put it up there, and then he'd itemize it, and he'd go on, I forget but he'd go on the internet. I'm trying to think of the websites he used, but eBay and all that kind of stuff, and just get the fair market value, and then donate it, knowing that he was going to get audited, and he would take that money and pay for his kid and pay for his son's college. But he knew he was getting audited every year by doing this. And it worked out. It was just, like buying a house. It was the cost of capital, the audit was, right? But
Yeah.
that's what he did. That's what he did. And it was just interesting hearing stories of him talking to the IRS, while getting audited and that kind of stuff. So he knew what he was getting himself into, or learned it the hard way the first time. Said, you know what? It still paid for my son's tuition, so I'm going to continue doing it. But he knew it was going to, it was like his second job, essentially, when you tally up the amount of hours he had to put in to those audits. So
that must have been a nice deduction to like volunteer for an audit.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know I'm going to get audited if I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he knows that he's obeying the rule by the letter, the law and the IRS tax law by the letter. But because he is stretching that line so much by doing it, they were going to audit him every time he did it. At the end of the day, he won, but still, think about the time and pain. But at the same time, it paid for his son's college. So to me, it makes sense, right? You're not going to do that to pay the phone bill.
Wow,
right?
what a lion tamer.
Yeah, I think sometimes you also have to weigh, like if you have a list of things you're going to sell, Jack, and then you think you might make $500 off the lot or whatever it is, and how long are you going to spend trying to sell it? We used to do a lot of work for the banks on their REOs, so we go in and trash out units that had gone into foreclosure, and I came home with tons of stuff, just a lot of great stuff. And if I put something out in a yard sale and I put a price on it, it's usually a pretty low price. I don't like haggling, but my wife Cynthia loves it. And so if she's going to be there and she wants to go back and forth with people, that's fine. But I will just end up getting in a fight with someone because they're too cheap, and then I'll have to go back to anger management class. So it wouldn't be worth it for me.
Go back.
I was wondering if anybody would catch that. That's a story one of these days, Lindsay. Are you going to be in Vegas?
Yes, I am. I'm going.
We might have to talk about that one over a drink because that was a pretty tough time for me. I almost went to prison, I guess. My attorney said, if you don't do this and go to anger management class, the judge might throw the book at you and you'll end up in prison. So maybe after.
Now, I have to admit, I'm shocked at that. Of all the people that I know, Frank Contreras is like probably the least likely that I would consider as a candidate for anger management.
I guess it worked, right? Either the anger management.
Yeah, it worked like a champ, man.
Or either
you
that
manage that anger really good, at least when you're around me.
The threat of prison was probably what worked better than the anger management class.
That's Vegas worthy story.
Yeah, because what happens in Vegas, right? So we'll be able to leave it there.
I heard you were talking about that episode on TV.
So you don't want to tempt the judge like this guy tempts the IRS.
No. Yeah, I couldn't see doing the yard sale knowing that you were going to get audited. I think I would try to avoid that at all costs.
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
have to be a really good deduction.
Yeah, I'd rather just pay extra taxes to avoid the IRS.
I was gonna ask you guys as well. I have another. I have in my like some of the people I know, and I was approached by someone who, okay, uh, so like places like church and stuff like that, a place like that. So I sometimes talk about I talk about investing in real estate and stuff like. And usually, the conversation goes, "Oh yeah, what do you do?" And I talk about it from time to time, and usually there's, like, okay, all right, and they ask them a couple of questions, and then we move to another subject. Um, but sometimes, like, and it happens a couple of times that some people were like, "Oh yeah, yeah, you do this, okay, and tell me about it again, and what do you uh, how you do it?" They have a couple of questions. Do you invest in this, or where do you invest, stuff like that. And I was gonna say, like, have anyone here worked with, you know, friends or acquaintances or just other people who are like kind of interested in investing with you guys? Like they have no idea. They hear about, they know about stocks, they know about real estate, but they know how to buy stocks, but they don't know how to buy real estate. And when you talk about real estate, they usually don't hear people talk about investing in real estate or real estate investors. So, you guys, you know, you guys become experts in their eyes. So, and they're like, oh yeah, yeah. What do you do? What do you buy? And where do you buy? And I want to know more about it. And maybe we can work together, things in that nature. And have like, and I was like, I don't know what is the if you want to do something with other people. I remember that like Millennial Mind does have a some kind of LLC with them, and they go through, you know, basically buys it with them. And I was thinking the other route would be if I have my like license, I can be an agent and I can buy it for them, um, help them out and get them something maybe that cash flows versus an agent out there. There's thousands of agents who's gonna buy them something just to buy them something, and apparently they're probably looking for something that is better than that deal, and that's why they were kind of interested in knowing, how I buy, for example, how you buy, for example. But when you spend this time, if you let's say you want to educate someone or you want to help someone to buy something, it it should be also maybe somehow rewarding to you and to your time. And so I was thinking of that, and like, how can I help these people if they approach me? And I was just thinking what you guys may think about that, and if you have any experience around that stuff, around that situation.
My biggest concern would be, are these people, if something goes wrong, are going to try to come back on you in some form and end up destroying a friendship or that part of your family acquaintance or something like that. So honestly, I think the best thing to do might be to get them introduced to, like, if it was me, I would introduce them to more of the ORAT, and that way they can kind of make their own decisions based upon what they want to do, and they can set up their buy box and their rent box and kind of learn the same, more or less the same way that the rest of us have.
I would probably add to that I have thought about that, and everybody that I've tried to, at least in my family, or I don't have that many friends, but in the family, nobody's been interested enough to ask questions about it. but also as far as Cynthia and I are concerned, we've only been doing it for these 3.5 years or so. So I would want to show that person exactly what we've gone through for these 3.5 years, showing, the evictions, the turnovers, the improvements on the properties that we've had to do, so they have a real picture before they plop their money down, because I think that's what, when I tried to do this the first time back in 07, that's what I heard. You buy a rental, you place a tenant, everything's good. And that's all I knew, and that's why we lost them. So
You mean it doesn't work like that, Frank?
no, and I can prove that it doesn't.
The signing is the easiest part, right?
Yes. Yeah. So as long as they have the real picture, and your time is valuable, Sam. I mean, again, I'll just use ourselves as an example. We've been studying all this time, we're trying it. We've failed at a few things. Things haven't gone exactly like they say it will. So I think, if they knew that, they might not be so anxious to invest.
Well, so like, yeah, you're right. These are great points, guys. Thank you. I got someone at some point where it's like, you know, I wanna, I have $200,000. I mean, he's got, because he's got a great job. He he does very well, and he said, I'm trying to buy an investment property to help me with my taxes, and I got $200,000. Let's say I have $200,000 and I want to buy a property. And so he was telling me, that he's very interested, and he was like, I have some people, I know some people in Michigan that they can do that as well, but also I would probably, I live here now, so I may want to invest here as well. So, at some point I told him I'm going to think about it, and but I'm just it's yeah, I mean, it's a little tricky because you they I'm trying to see if it's the best way is to educate them, because that takes time. Like you guys know that if I mean, if I send them to Aura, that that probably takes them years. But like we all did, right?
Yeah.
We had a learning curve before we stepped into our first property. But so that takes years. Yeah, probably. I mean, they can jump in. They can jump in right away. But I mean, to me, that's even bigger risk, because if he wants to buy something, let's say in the next 3 months, and if he goes that route, that means that journey will be very long before they even try to buy, will get to buy something. And if they
Sam, how
have
much
time
do
to
you care
do it,
about
because
this guy? How much do you care about this person?
well, it's not that. So it's I don't think about it this way. Just I think about it. The guy's interested, and I do have some knowledge, um, and that's about it. I'm not about he's
Have you
interested.
have you thought about, Sam? Have you thought about seeing if he wants to be your private money lender and make money that way?
That was another option, Sean. That was another option. It seems like he wants to own a property. You know, he might be a good candidate for private money, because it seems like he's
That's the easiest if you're not going to get
that's
in
the
and learn
easiest.
about it, right?
That's the easiest. Yeah, that's the easiest.
Did
But it
you
seems like he
hear?
needs help.
Did you hear what Zuber did once he started kind of getting successful and his friends and family were coming to him? I think he had a program where what he did, and this was based on interest rates at the time, but if I remember the story correctly, what he did is he said, okay, um, you lend the money on it at 6%, right? and I'll pay you 6% on the money. You put the down payment down, and I'll pay you 6% on the money. And then when we sell it, whenever that is, at my discretion, whenever we sell it, you get 20% of the profit. So you get a piece of the equity, and you get a steady 6% return, which I thought was a pretty creative idea.
Yeah, yeah. I think I remember you were talking about that. Yeah, yeah.
Something I just thought
That's another.
of when I was just getting into real estate and stuff, I used to have a guy that he was mentoring me a little bit. Since then, we kind of lost contact with each other. But when because he only had like my breaks and stuff to talk to me because we worked in such far away different departments and he wasn't there every day. He would give me so many homework assignments to do until I saw him like the next week or something like that. And it was on me to go learn those terms and that topic and then do all that kind of stuff. And then touch base with him a week later or something like that.
I would agree with that. I think that's one thought, right, Sam? If they're interested in investing, maybe they want to keep it as passive as possible, but like you said, introducing them to the ORAC community or just saying, hey, you need to at least, look at some properties and do an analysis of your own so you can understand the process. And if they're not interested in even going that far, then maybe it's not a good thing. But also, like, I think maybe it was Jack that said earlier that a lot of people might, even though you tell them everything up front, they might blame you for getting them into real estate investing. So that's just something I would be careful of. If they're not willing to do any work at all, I might not do something like that.
Well, that's great feedback. And the other option I was thinking of, like, let's say, what if I become like, I buy them I become an agent, and I study that to become an agent, and also so I buy it for them, but also I can manage it for them with the knowledge, with what we learn, with what we know, I can manage it for them. But yeah, there is also the downside. What if this goes sideways? What if it goes, um, not as intended, it, but
But sideways is okay.
there might be. I'm sorry.
Sideways is okay. It's when it goes down that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. And so what if it goes down? And but in real estate, do you guys agree that, like, if you buy a property and if you don't need to sell it, if the rent is okay, I mean the property, let's say you have a downturn and the property goes down in value, but if you can still keep it, and rent it out without having to sell it, you might be okay.
Sam, that comes down to personality, though. A lot of people, when they see something go down, they'll sell, even though it cash flows and it's fine, right? And that's the other part of it. What's their personality? Do they have the patience for real estate investing? Because unless you're flipping houses, you need patience, and and you need more patience than being a stock investor, and you need more patience than, frankly, being a bond investor. To be honest with you,
Right.
You have to have patience. You have to understand real estate. Real estate moves in time of years, not in time of days or months. And do they have the personality for that? That's the other part of it. I think I try to explain to my family how much I enjoy real estate investing and how awesome it is. But one thing I always say is, like, look, I sacrifice this or that or whatever. And the word sacrifice scares them away. But the one or two that the sacrifice doesn't scare them away, the word time then comes into it, because I say, look, this is why I'm doing it. This is my vision, whatever. But my vision is over the course of a decade, 2 decades. I'm hoping 4 or 5 decades. A lot of people can't get over that. We live in a make the quick buck society, right? People see what happened to Bitcoin, and they're like, they're everybody's always searching for the next Bitcoin. So I'm and I'm not saying your friend or the people you're talking to are that way, but I'm just saying, that's something I would be very upfront with them and have them fully understand. Real estate moves in time of years, whereas everything else in our society moves in time of hours, days, minutes, months. So there you go.
It seems like yes. It seems like what you guys are saying is education, presenting the good side as well as the bad side is what and then like you said, Lars, the personality. What if they are they willing to deal with the emotional, changes or what happens to the property and things like that and but yeah, it goes back to education and presenting the good and the bad like you friend said too. Um, okay, and I may offer them a guarantee. Well, if it goes in down, I'll buy it from you.
For less, right?
Yeah,
Not what they paid
but
for it.
you gotta hire.
Sam, do you think it's a case of your friend wants to learn how to be an investor, or do you think it's a case of, hey, Sam's making money on it, can I invest with Sam and get a piece of the
That's
action?
it's the second, Sean. It's the second. Look, they
If he
one of
doesn't
them.
want to learn it, then maybe just consider, you don't have to call it. You can call it like a debt partner or something, but basically a private money loan.
Yeah, he doesn't know. One of them is a physician. He makes good amount of money. He doesn't have time to learn any of this. Like doesn't have time
Yeah, that
of any
sounds
of
like an
that.
LP. He sounds definitely like an LP. Doctors, dentists, lawyers. Yeah, anybody who's making like, 150, 200,000 or more, 9 times out of 10, they're going to be more focused on getting in more clients and making their money that way. So those would definitely be excellent LPs, and they would be best to maybe not a program, but just something so that they have a general understanding of, hey, here's what's going to happen if, like, let's say you invest like, I don't know, 50, 100,000 or whatever. You know, without going into the gory details, just give them like a quick rundown of like, hey, if you invest this, um, here's how they're going to make the money back through rents. Part of it is going to be used for whatever it be, down payment, closing costs, whatever the case is for that particular property. And then simply just at a not like super duper superficial level, but just enough so that they know, like, hey, here's where my money's going. If someone was to ask them, like, hey, I heard that you were investing with Sam, can you tell me a little bit about this, Dr. So and so or whatever. Enough so they can then say, oh, okay, yeah, so I'm investing with Sam. He told me, I'm, getting my money back through the rents or whatever the case is, but just enough so that they can have a conversation with somebody else and they're not feeling like, they're being gypped or being left out in terms of like important information, stuff like that. In terms of like getting down into the level that we're at, I have an uncle who's a dentist, and he asked me about this, and I started telling him, like, I was like super duper enthusiastic. I was like, yeah, and so, explaining cash on cash return and telling him about, dealing with property managers and stuff like that, yeah, his eyes glazed over in like that much time and was like, yeah. So I'm gonna think about some like that was the look I got on his that he had on his face. So like it's just a different world, man. I'm telling you,
It's
if
also
somebody's got cash and they're trying to find a place to invest it, you
it's
know,
hard
that
for
that might
people to
be a
learn
different
something
route.
new. And these people are successful, so whatever time they put into extra time they put into making more money, it's easier for them to make money in their own industry. Than
Exactly.
to, and then there's a learning curve too, with all this stuff. So, a lot of these people, they're better off just focusing on what they've been working with.
Well, Mitesh, Mitesh, to me, the crazy thing about it is like I don't have tons of time. It's not about how much time. And one thing I've learned about real estate, it's not about how much time you put in. It's about consistency. If you consistently put in 20 minutes a day, you can be a pretty good investor. Just putting in 20 minutes a day, looking up, learning your market, and then making sure it cash flows once you put in the PM fees and everything else.
But how much does the dentist make putting in 30 minutes? He could be making $200-$300 for that 30
Okay,
minutes.
yeah,
Right?
Plus
true,
overtime,
but
plus
they're not
like,
going to do that.
surgeries and stuff like that too,
Yeah, but they also have spare time as well, right? So then it comes down
Not
to,
really.
I mean, everybody has spare time. I work in banking and I'll hear people all the time say, I don't have any spare time, blah, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like,
Well, they're gonna do something else with their spare time. They're not gonna keep working with the spare time.
well, and that's what it comes down to. Like if they put in 20 minutes if they put in 20 minutes a day for 2 weeks, is that something different to do, or is that work? If it's work, then yes, you're right. That's basically what I did, and I found out real estate wasn't work for me. It was a different thing. It was a different interest, and then it and then it kind of turned into a little bit of work, but not really for me. But you don't know that until you do it for a couple of weeks. For a couple of weeks, right? You don't know if it's a different interest. So that's just how I view it, and that's one thing they can do is they can you can explain it to them and be like, look, I put in 20 minutes a day. Here's what I do. Blah blah blah. I find it interesting. If you find it interesting, great. And if not, that's okay. I'll still show you and kind of do what Chester was saying, explain enough to them and see if they want to invest. But see if they want to invest in you instead of in a property at that point. But I thought real estate was a chore, and then I found out it was an interest. So that was just me.
Sam, does your friend fall into that category of like high, income job?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One of them. One of them for sure.
Is the friend married?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw an idea on you. Just for...
Let's do it.
All right. So one of the big advantages for high income earners, right? If they're a full-time real estate professional, is a tax write-off, right? So you could potentially buy something or have, kind of be the consultant, have your friend buy something. You basically manage it along with the person's spouse. If the spouse could be a full-time real estate professional, they could do a cost segregation study, and they could get, like a huge tax deduction against the large income. There's a lot of, like doctors and stuff that kind of do those strategies if they can find a good person, and you could get like a 10% management fee and run it for them.
That could be a huge benefit.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So there, he's getting like, $40,000 in tax savings or whatever, and you're charging property management fee.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I would also say if you're going to do that and it's if you're going to do that and you work in a field where it's best for people not to know that you are that it's best for people not to know what other jobs you have, because I know I know some people have those. If you are one of those, Sam, whatever, if you do that, do it through form a Wyoming LLC to where the owners of the business is not publicized to the public. So so the people that you don't want to know that you do that, don't know that you do it. Right? Like if you're going to manage it, I'm just saying that because I thought in Vegas you mentioned that as well. And I work in banking. I have an interview tomorrow where if I get that job, I'm going to have to do that with a lot of stuff because it's best that people don't know. It's just, yeah, it's fine for me to say, oh yes, I invest in real estate, but it's best for them not to know to what extent, right? Professionally speaking. So.
Yeah. No, so many good points here, guys. So, yeah, you made
Something
me
to think on.
Yeah, it made me think. So many points to think of, but yeah, they're all on point.
Yeah.
So
You come to the group. We're throwing out ideas.
let's go. I'm trying to cash these thoughts now.
You're,
Awesome.
you're not getting away yet, Sam. I have a thought. So if just say the person has a couple $100,000 to invest, and I know you don't want to send them into like a D class or C minus neighborhoods, but if they found a decent market where they could deploy, 40, 50, 60,000 to purchase something and keep all the rest for reserves. And I'm sure you would let them know that things are going to come up, right? And they have to be ready for that. And like the guys were saying, that it is a long-term investment. They shouldn't expect to jump in and jump out in, 3, 4, 5 years. That the benefit comes from holding on to it longer than that.
Right.
That's what and that, I guess, is kind of what we did in the beginning. We only had, say, 40,000 to invest, but we did have some reserves after that. And we were able to get into a less expensive market to get us started. And we learned a ton with all the things that came up in the first year or second year, things like that. So if they're that committed, then maybe it could work.
Yeah, I would wait
Yeah.
at least 3-4 years before you take anybody else's money, because you want to smooth things out with your own portfolio first.
Mm-hmm.
I would say give it 3-4 years.
Yeah, and
Right, right.
yeah, I think about that too. In our own case, I don't feel like we're really in the position to do that with a friend, or I think we need to wait a couple more years until we have that track record, and we're always open, even with you guys, to show all the numbers, all the mistakes, all the lessons, and then there's some proof of concept, right? But if you're just in it a couple of years, you don't really have that behind you yet. And not you,
Right.
but I mean any other
Right.
new investor.
And the
Right.
only reason why you bring somebody in is you need their money. But if you already have an option to get that money, it's probably better to just get that money yourself and buy with your own money rather than bring somebody else's money in.
Yeah, I don't think he was thinking of it as far as getting somebody else's money, but he has a person interested in doing what he's doing, but they need to know all the stuff, not just, and I think going through, like I said, going through analyzations with them to understand what you think about before you buy a property. It's not just you just plop the money down, like I thought in the beginning, you just plop the money down and everything's great.
Really? You just can't sign something and get it going?
Get it going? Really? Yeah.
You can't see it produced right away?
Trust me, I still have the paperwork for the 105% mortgage that I got. So I can show you the details of the bad way to do it.
You and Dion caused the real estate collapse, right?
We did.
Yeah, you're yeah. Well, each one in one state, so in a state. Well, thank you guys very much. This is very helpful. I was got a great points here. Thank you, and yeah, great seeing you, everyone.
Yeah, good. And things are going okay with your rehab too?
Well, I'm trying to. I mean, in negotiation with the plumbers and electricians. This is my biggest challenge now. So, I think I'm after seeing 3 or 4, I'm gonna have to make a decision. And the other one is like, even if you agree on a price and doing the permit and all that, I think what the other challenge is, some of them will want a initial draw, which I kind of don't like, but at some point, if these guys are referred to me by people I know, I think that might be okay. But in general, I don't like them. I just want to see the work started before I give them any money up front. But now, because of the permit, they're asking for a draw, because they're saying they have to go to their master electrician or master plumber, and that costs money, and they don't want to put it themselves. They want me to pay them up front. So I'm just trying to think about that. Yeah, it's kind of a little tricky, but we'll see what happens.
I would say with that, make sure you have a good contract, and make sure you've done a background on them. Make sure they have a bond, etc.
Yeah, and it depends a little bit too on the amount of draw that they're asking for, because here in California, we can either ask for $1,000 up front or 10%, whichever is less. So if the project is, say, 40,000, I can only get $1,000 up front to get started. And I think the thinking behind that is that we as contractors should have resources enough to get the job going, right?
Exactly.
And buy materials and stuff. So yeah, what have you had specific numbers as far as the draws they're asking for?
Well, like if it's let's say if the job costs $5,000, I've heard, they want 20% or $1,000 or stuff like that. And the challenge for me is like is that this is just labor. I'm buying the material, so that's why I was like, well, I'm buying you the material. You'll find the material on site when you come in, and you want still you still want to draw. That doesn't, well, but now, because they have to initiate the permit, and they have to, in Texas, they have to have a master pulling the permit, and the master plumber, for example, will charge them money for the city and for their time. So, and I'm trying to find. I'm trying. The challenge is I'm trying to tell them, if you want this job, you wanna also invest. You have to you invest in it. Like when you pull a permit, and you don't charge me, you put that money in, but you're also guaranteeing the job, but that's a guarantee for you that the permit is, you're pulling the permit, you're gonna do the job, and then with the contract, that you guarantee that I'm gonna pay you. But I'm trying to go around that. It's like, I'm buying the material. I shouldn't pay you anything up front. But now the challenge with the permits, and I'm trying to see, you should have the reserve to pull a permit and start the job. You're not depending on me for that few $100s to pull the permit. That's kind of the situation there. I'm trying to see
They're
what I
not
want to
going to pay
do.
for anything out of their own pocket.
That's the thing. Also, they might, they may not,
No, they won't.
I think
they won't.
they might be thinking of it the way you're thinking of it, right? They don't want to get burned by this guy that they don't want to get burned by you, and you
Right.
don't want to get burned by them.
Yeah,
don't
they're
think-
investing their time in
Mhm.
you.
I don't think $1,000 is too much. Where in St. Louis, when they went to pull the permit for water heater replacement, it was $350. So I sent the plumber $350 right away because he's not a master plumber, but like you said, he had to get a master plumber to go pull the permit. So, but this guy was referred to us by our agent, so there was a little bit of trust there already. So if this person has been referred to you by someone you know and someone he's done work for before, that might be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and you really have to start somewhere, right? You maybe if you do start with this guy, it's going to be a great relationship from here on out, but you won't know until you try.
yeah, and I think the last few ones I got was from referrals, and I kind of have more trust versus posting something on Facebook group of this in local group and just everyone commenting and I have no idea who they are. But I really like the idea of the referrals, and so that might be it's very encouraging that I have some people now were referred to me by people that I know, and they are investors that I know. So that way, kind of, I have more trust for those people. So in those people, so I might be one of them would be probably would be the best candidate there. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I do everything through referrals now. I mean,
It's best, yeah.
And if somebody else is cheaper, it's still not worth it. Like it's better to go through a referral.
I agree. I totally agree. It gives me a big confidence in dealing with these people versus someone in 5,000 people on a Facebook group. I have no idea who they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
I think Hyder's got jobs going in like all 50 states. So the next time he blows through Texas, just get him to do it for you.
Well, he goes only north. He goes only north to Alaska.
He's got Alaska, he's got Indiana, he's got California.
Yeah, I haven't done Hawaii yet. Mark's waiting for me.
Matt was trying to get him to come out to New Hampshire.
Have tools.
I'm sure he charges well for his travel. So
yeah, they
for
say
the
he's really expensive, I hear.
Oh.
Before we get to
terms.
before we get to Lars' question, I was just going to say too, Sam, that just because they were referred by a friend doesn't mean it's going to work out either, because I've had that happen, where, that maybe the guys get along great with your friends and then personalities or something else is different and that might change. But I think you're okay getting started with them, at least to see how it works out with the referral.
Yep. I agree with you too. I agree with you. Yeah.
And you got to make sure they got the insurance and the bond. So if anything goes downhill, you can go after them.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree with you guys. Yeah, and thanks for the information. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah, that's another fun part over there. But I tell it was stressing me at some point. But I just posted probably I posted on my Instagram. It can be doing the work. It's not easy. It can be painful. But guys, it's a good problem to have. Like I think about it now. After all this pain, finding a plumber, finding an electrician, going and to talk to people, it's a good problem to have. Doing what we're doing, although it's stressful and all that, it and painful sometimes. I just realized after this, we're in the new year, it's a good problem to have. I'd rather this problem than any other problem. So
there you go.
it is spinning a roulette wheel. You just want as many colored spaces as possible right on there, so it lands on
Yep.
your color.
Yeah, it happens. Yep.
But you got those zeros sticking out there.
You're right.
Did you have another question, Lars?
Yeah. So I put a link in the chat,
Mm-hmm.
and this is a house I'm gonna have my PM/real estate agent go look at tomorrow, or at least I think it will be tomorrow. It comes on the market tomorrow. And my question is, if you go to the I'm trying to see it's one of the bathroom pictures where there's a shower and there's linoleum going up against the shower. It looks like it's kind of rolling up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that look like possible water damage to you?
The one with the aqua tile and the white tile?
Yeah, the blue the blue wall, white tile, and then the linoleum going up against the shower insert right there. It looks
At
like it's
like
kind
the
of folded
base of
up.
it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, at the base. Yeah, at the base where the do-it-yourself caulking is. It's
Yeah,
obvious
it looks like it
do-it-yourself.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
It doesn't look out of the ordinary. That spot's going to get water from people, well, from the shower door opening and dripping onto the floor,
Right.
people stepping out, and there's probably particle board underneath that linoleum. So the particle board, the glue probably has delaminated. The particle board is probably a little bit swollen, but there's a good chance that the damage hasn't reached the subfloor yet, which would be either plywood or 2x6 or 2x8 tongue and groove planks for the main subfloor. They'll put particle board over that because it's a smoother surface for linoleum. That I wouldn't be too concerned about that. I think when
Okay.
the inspector goes in, if I was looking at that, I would poke something down in the floor and it would probably stop within the 1/2 inch of particle board. If it went deeper than that, then the subfloor has some damage to it as well.
Okay, so you don't think it'd be probably terribly expensive to deal with then, because you're not
No.
good to the subfloor. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I was wondering about that one. It's in a great neighborhood, and it's one of those where it's almost too good to be true for the price versus the rents.
Mm.
With the garage, and with it being in a cul-de-sac, and with it being a 4-3, particularly the neighborhood it's in, I'm just, if I can get it for the price they're posting on the MLS, then awesome, right? And and it's just like $20,000, which is kind of what I've come up with going through the pictures. Right now, one thing I noticed that there's no pictures of the garage, so maybe there's something hiding in the garage. Right? I'm always skeptical of areas that they purposely don't put pictures in, because I think it's on purpose. I do know it's an estate sale, so it's possible they put all grandma's stuff in there, in the garage to get the pictures up. So maybe there isn't nothing there. But whenever I see, hey, what are you not showing in the pictures? Oh, look, there's not a single one of the room of this room, in this case the garage there.
Yeah. It looks.
Hey, Lars, quick question.
It looks just dated, but what would the rent be on something like that?
In that neighborhood, $2,800 a month.
Okay.
Hey, Lars, is this on public water or septic tank?
Oh, it's on public.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah. There's obviously, I kind of figure there's probably about $20,000 worth of repairs to be done. I'm probably gonna have to replace some stuff in the various bathrooms, the pink bathroom and that, I've never seen a porcelain painted pink, but
So Lars, is this kind of a combination cash flow appreciation play for this neighborhood?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, because taxes are so low in Delaware, I figured out after the PM fees and everything, I'd be cash flowing $395 a month.
Nice.
And I got insurance quotes from my insurance company, etc. So, day one after fees, $395 a month in a neighborhood and cul-de-sac, in the part of town that most people would want to be in. Like I said, it's almost too good to be true.
Lars,
Yeah.
the schools. I looked at the schools on Redfin here. Have you noticed that it seems like there's 3 schools listed, and one of them has a rating of 7 out of 10, but the other
Yeah,
two,
the grade school, but the other two stink. I have noticed in Delaware that none of
2
the
of
middle
10.
or high schools are rated above a 5.
Right. So I just want to mention that because I don't know if that's a red flag or it's still a good area, but if you know it's a good area, it's a good area.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm one thing I was really surprised with in Delaware as I look around the Newark Wilmington area, right? And you get rid of the private schools. I think there might be one charter school where that's an exception, but essentially none of the middle or high schools are rated, I think that if I recall, I'm saying above a 5, but it might not. I think the highest rated one was a 4. Now I think about it. In that area. Now, maybe in Dover and maybe in southern Delaware, it's better. I don't know. Right. But in the area of Essence. So that's just, I don't know, is what it is. I also don't know how good, I also don't know where these school ratings come from. That's something I don't know.
Have you checked the Christiana area? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah. Yeah, this is in around the I mean not this exact one, but yeah, Christiana. I think that's where the Christiana area, if I recall correctly, that's where my first house is kind of near that area.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Just curious. Yeah. Seems like a good area. I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. No, you go around and like I said, it's looks good, but yeah, when I don't know what it is about the schools, but yeah. No, as you look around, none of them, the middle schools are just not, the middle and high schools are just not that great in any of the parts of the Wilmington, Newark, Delaware area. So yeah. So
looks like a
Good
nice
luck,
place.
Lars.
yeah, thank you. We'll see what happens. Like I said, it's almost too good to be true. To be brutally honest, like I'm just, I don't know what's hiding, but
So it goes on market tomorrow, right?
yeah, or at least
So
that's what.
are you going in at listing?
Well, I'm waiting. That's why I'm really interested. If I've been pre-approved for listing. I've been pre-approved for 10K over. I have like the pre-approval letters for both those. But I'm waiting to see what happens when we walk through it because it's like I said, it's almost too good to be true. But at listing, at listing with the interest rates as of Monday morning, with the insurance quote and with the taxes and everything, I was it was going to cash flow after everything else was going to cash flow $395 a month. So, which, yeah, like I said, I'm hoping it's so dated that other people go through it and find it disgusting of how dated it is. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm probably not going to be that lucky, but I'm almost just waiting for me to put an offer for listing and then come back with like the best and final, and then and then somebody buys it for like 360 or something.
I was going to say, so you're saying based on this market that's a really good price for a 4 bedrooms, that many square feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard for me to get my head around some of the other markets because a single family that costs that much in my market wouldn't cash flow, but you're getting a lot more rent there than I would.
Yeah. The house that I bought in 2023 while I was deployed to Iceland, we get $2,800 a month for that rent. So, yeah. And so this one being not in the exact same area, but relatively in the same area, with it being a 4-3, and especially being a cul-de-sac. The other thing is, what's funny about Delaware is not everything has garages. And so when you have a garage, you can almost get, provided it's in decent condition, you can get an extra $100-$150 a month for it. So part of that $2,700 is actually for the fact it has a garage. So you take that garage away, now you drop $100-$150 a month. So. Anywho.
Hey, Lars, how much did you say you're able to get for rent for that?
27 to
Okay.
28. I'll probably put on the market for 29 just to see if somebody takes, just because it's in a cul-de-sac. But then being willing to take 27.
Okay, yeah, because I put in a link. I did a quick rentcast thing, so that's actually pretty accurate. So for everybody who's looking to get a quick sort of overview, the rentcast estimate was 2650. So, like I said, it seems like this thing's fairly decent. So if
Yeah.
you're able to get, 27, 28, 29, yeah, definitely go for it.
Yeah, now if you put Ohio taxes on this, then the cash flow would go to hell. But Delaware taxes, we're good to go.
Wow.
What are the Delaware taxes? 1%?
For this house is $2,400 a year.
So that's less than 1%.
Yeah, they have some sort of weird there's some sort of law with a calculation there where the taxes can only go up by so much every year from the year that it was built, type of thing, or something along those lines.
Oh, wow.
Unless now the one exception of that is if the city does a citywide, not a neighborhood, not a house, but a citywide reassessment, then they can get around that. But they have to do it citywide. So in other words, they can't come and say, Sam, your house, was you paid, I don't know, I'm going to make up taxes. You paid $3,500 a year on your house for taxes. Well, the market has we know from the media and everybody else and all this other stuff, the market's gone up 20%. So we're going to raise your taxes 10% or something like that. They're not allowed to do that. The only way they could do that is if they do a citywide reassessment. But then there's like rules on how often they can do a citywide reassessment. There's like state laws on that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're saving $100 a month on taxes.
Yeah, this would be $200 a month on taxes for this one.
That's a good rule because if they go up, they go up on everybody. So that they have to be willing to withstand the heat at the ballot box, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I notice is the cities they don't raise the taxes on a residential person, but on the corporate names they will.
Yeah, that's a lot of I think a lot of governments do that because they can get away with it. Because when you think about it, if you go to the public and say we're raising everybody's taxes, then you have to the previous point, you have to withstand at the ballot box. If you just go ahead and raise it on the corporations, you can say, look, they're making profit. They'll just raise prices to still make their profit. Now, we as real estate investors know that's not true, but that's how they're going to sell it to the public.
Yeah, I just noticed like some of the properties I had, it still showed the previous person's name on the tax record. And so they did not raise the property taxes as much as my other properties.
Yeah.
Or they kept it for several years, many years at the same rate.
Yeah. So anyways, that's I was just kind of I figured I'd ask the question there, and yeah, that's like I said, I'm waiting for there to be something that's not in those 40 pictures that that makes it where it's priced right. But as of right now, from what I see and from the location and everything, it's priced low.
But even with a crappy garage, it's probably still a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm like I said, I have pre-approvals for the listing and then for 10 over the listing. Like I mean pre-approval the pre-approval letters or whatever. I'm pre-approved for more than that. I just we'll see how how high I'm willing to go, even if it's a great deal, because I have other stuff I have to watch out too. So yeah, but so tomorrow's gonna be an interesting day. I talk with HR of another company and have my property manager go out and look at this house, and there you go.
Definitely good luck with all of that.
Yeah, I'm I'm more if I have to choose one, I'm taking the job.
Oh yeah, and you think you'll know about that tomorrow as well?
I'm hoping so. I mean, just judging, I don't know why somebody from HR would send out an email saying that they need to go over salary, benefits, and net steps if it's, you know, if it's I don't know why you'd put that in an email if it's not to talk about, if it's not to talk about the concept of an offer or an offer itself.
Maybe that's all you're getting are the benefits. You don't get paid.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a positive indicator.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping for.
If the agenda is to talk about pay and benefits, that sounds like an offer's coming.
Yeah, and the weird thing is the timing, because the timing of that email. Now it wound up being scheduled after the second interview, but the time of the email was between my phone interview and the in-person interview, and so that's what kind of like threw me off, because I've never had somebody from HR send me an email that actually mentioned the word salary in it. It's always been, oh, we want to learn about your background or some BS like that. Whatever. Do their phone screens. I've never had somebody after I have an interview reach out and put the word salary in it and have it be between the first interview and the second interview. It's just so weird. But hey, I will take it.
I'm guessing
Definitely
they
take the
might
job.
possibly trying to negotiate you down ahead of time. So be wary
Yeah.
about potential tactics like that.
Yeah. Yeah, but then if you're going to do that, why would you give them the heads up? If you're going to negotiate somebody down, you want to catch them off guard. I'm obviously ready. Like, you gave me 10 bloody days to prepare.
Well, maybe they might try to throw some sort of diversion in there and be like, yeah, we're gonna give you here's an overview of stuff, and then while they're doing that, be like, oh, by the way,
yeah, Chester thinks they're trying to ice the kicker.
Yeah.
Well, we'll find out what their strategy was and
Yeah.
why they did.
Like I said, I know what I'm hoping for. So the funny thing is like I already know what it pays, because because they posted this job in multiple states, and so the states where they have to post the pay range, I already went and looked at them, and it was the same one in all the states. So I already know what the pay range is. So I mean, obviously it's a range, but
So that's obviously, when they ask you what range you're looking for, that's obviously going to be your answer, right?
Yeah.
A dollar less than the top amount.
It's just my range is magically the upper 50%. I can't figure out why.
Mm.
But
Yeah,
anyway,
I would definitely take the job over $400 a month.
yeah, yeah. There'll be other deals that come along. And this job is the part of the banking industry I've been wanting to get in for years. So it's yeah,
What part of the
anyways,
banking industry is it, Lawrence?
commercial.
Let me ask you.
Commercial.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, now you see why. Yeah, I'm in business banking right now. But business banking I think is unfortunately it's tied to the consumer division at most banks, including the one I work at. And so there ends up being a lot more regulations, but it's also the one that's most likely to get automated versus commercial and corporate and investment. I'm not saying they won't introduce technology because they always will, but it's a lot harder to it's a it's a lot harder to you know to author to automate it out of existence.
Right.
And a lot of that's ego, right? Because a CEO of a bank is going to be a lot quicker to automate something where the average loan is below $1 million versus a division of the bank where the average loan is above 10 million. Right?
Exactly.
You want the human. You're not just going to blindly trust technology to make those big decisions for you. Also, you'll piss off a lot of business owners, and the smaller banks will just take the business away from you because if they have to call the 800 no one cares about you phone number, it's like, dude, I have a $15 million loan. I'm calling the 800 no one cares about you phone number. Like that just magically doesn't go over well. Can't figure out
Yeah,
why.
no. Yeah, and then part of it is also, I don't want to say like the default risk, but like it's more of uh it's easier to like now again you will kind of make it up a little bit with volume, but like it's a lot easier to deal with, a few write-offs for like, your regular everyday type of loans versus like, your, 8, 9 figure loans where it's like, yeah, a lot different dynamics. So, but yeah, that would definitely be awesome if you could get that for sure.
Yeah, yeah, that's and it's a training program to become a commercial banker at that big bank. So, and I think they're the only big bank that even offers that program anymore. And the only reason why they offer it is because they have stuffed the commercial bank um, in the investment banking division. And so the investment banking division already had that program, so they adopted it to commercial. Um, so yeah, well, like I said, I'm very hopeful. Yeah, I'm very hopeful, and I look forward to it. So,
Don't the loans need to be renewed every 5 years?
well, it depends what loan you're doing. Are you doing a working capital line of credit to a company? Are you doing um I mean, on the whole, for real estate loans, yes, but this division actually doesn't do real estate, I don't think. Yeah, I think if they do real estate, it's owner occupied real estate, but I don't even know if they even do that. I'm trying to remember, but um yeah, it's more loans, banking services, treasury management, all that type of stuff to companies, to the larger companies. Yeah, to larger companies. So, um, yeah, so a successful S corp or whatever that would have been in business banking is now in commercial banking. Uh, Giving them a line of credit or giving them giving them a line of credit for their seasonality on price secured by ARs or whatever it may be, or treasury management, merchant services, so their stuff goes by quicker, they can make more money off of it, or commercial credit card, that kind of stuff. So I do a lot of real estate underwriting right now. Well, yeah, I used to underwrite a lot of real estate. Now I manage those loans to businesses, to the smaller companies in the area, and this would be to bigger companies. I'm not dealing with real estate, so in my WT. So, but yeah, that's all that's all the questions I had there, Frank. So,
Well, that's okay. I appreciate the questions and everybody's input. Looks like we made it to our 3-hour mark, so I think we'll call it here. And thank you again for jumping in on New Year's Day, New Year's evening. But we're trying to keep this thing going, and you guys have all made that possible. So thank you. And we'll look forward to seeing you out there in the chats and next Wednesday.
All right. Thanks, everybody. It's officially
Thank you,
tomorrow
everybody.
now for me.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good night. Thank you, Anna, Mikey, Chris, Matesh. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, everybody.